I'm Lisa Gonzales, Chief Business Officer here in Mount Diablo Unified. And in this week's Ask the CBO, wanted to give you all a sneak peek as well as give you some information for those of you that won't be able to make it to the board meeting about the big takeaways from this year's first interim budget report. So just a little bit of a refresher, this is the budget and planning timeline. So we really start our year in June. We start with a proposed budget. We take a look at adopting that with the school board. And then over the course of the next couple months, we take a look at what the state does with its budget, trailer bill language. We do unaudited actuals in September, which is after we've closed the books at the end of June. And then right about this time every year, we provide what's called the first interim. And the first interim is a snapshot in time. It is a one-day snapshot in time as of the business day of October 31st, or the date that's closest to that if it falls on a weekend. And what we do is we take the assumptions that we've created, as well as those that are part of what the state is letting us know at the time, and we provide information about our first interim budget. So it's, again, a snapshot in time based on the assumptions that exist at the time. So that's pretty much where we are and what we will be discussing. So our assumptions for the first interim this year are as follows. We're taking a look at increased or continued enrollment decline, if you will. So you see that across the board. Again, we're using a model called cohort survival. It assumes that this year's kindergartners move into first grade next year. This year's seventh graders move into eighth grade next year. And then it takes into account a little bit of the birth rates in order to figure out what's going to happen with transitional kindergarten and kindergarten. And then it also looks at developments. So we're tightening up those numbers, but if we just go straight cohort survival with no additional building going on in the area, that's pretty much what it looks like. Our average daily attendance, otherwise known as warm body count or butts and seats on a specific day, we're looking at about 91% this year, 93% the following year, and then up to 94%, which is about where we were prior to the pandemic. We're using 5% for medical across the board. It seems to be what we're hearing from all the indicators that are out there. STRS is the state teachers retirement system. This is the pension program that we have for certificated employees. That would include teachers, counselors, psychologists, and pretty much all of your administrators that are at school sites, some that are here at the district office as well. So you can see how that goes up in the 22-23 school year. And then it pretty much levels off. And then you see PERS, the public employee retirement system. Those are all of our classified employees. You see that number jumping in 22-23, and then a little more in 23-24. And then that is expected to even out. Unemployment, this is one of the changes that the governor made after we adopted our budget last year. So we did revise this. The unemployment percentage that we pay here in California is 0.5%. It continues, and they're expecting that to drop in 2023, 2024. And then the step in column number that we're using right now is approximately 2%. So there are a handful of things that you should look at when you're taking a look at a budget. We call it our multi-year projection, because in public education, we always have to look at the current year plus 2 additional years. And the goal is that in order to be positive or have the best certification, we are in the black or not negative in that 3rd year or any other year. So 5 important things to take a look at. The first one is revenue trends. You want to see what's happening with the revenue or the money that's coming in. And the bulk of the money that comes in for us is based on the number of students that we have enrolled in the district and the days that they're here at school. So for the most part, that's pretty much how these work. And so the trend that you see right here is we're expecting this year to receive approximately $409 million compared to next year at $358, compared to the following year at $366. So your question might be, why the big drop? Well, the big drop in the 22-23 school year really has to do with the fact that we were what's called hold harmless. For the last 2 years, we've been funded at the enrollment that we had in the 19-20 school year, but starting next year when students arrive, the number that we will be using is about 1,900 students fewer. So that's why you see that big drop. And then of course you say, well, wait, if we're declining enrollment, why does it go up in the third year? It goes up because one of the assumptions that we're using right now comes out of the governor's office, and that's the expected cost of living adjustment. So we adjust in these years, and this is where you can see what we're expecting with revenue. The second thing you always look at is you look at the expenditure trends. So if we look at our expenditure trends, it's in section B, down there where it says total. We expect this year to spend approximately $415 million, as opposed to next year at $388 million and the following year at $387 million. This takes a number of things into account. It does not include any reductions that we may be taking a look at. If we have positions of individuals who we call them soft funded, but grant funds that may be expiring or one-year positions, it already assumes that those are not here. And so what we do see is we do see an expected drop in expenditures, which is good. One of the things that is important to know in the 21-22 school year is that we are expecting to spend millions of dollars this year on some textbook adoption, which is really important for our students. But what we see in this trend is if we go to the next slide, we look at what's called the over-under. Basically, this is a comparison of what are you getting and what are you spending. And what we see here is that we are spending in the 21-22 school year, it is anticipated that we're spending approximately $6.456 million more than we're taking in. You see the same exact thing happen in the following year and the following year after that. Now, I want to remind everybody of two things. Again, first of all, this is built on a set of assumptions, some that we get internally and some that are from the state, but also it is really, for the most part, based on the most current information that we have. And we're assuming that everything stays consistent, and it is a snapshot in time from when this ends, right? So first interim ends officially October 31st. So October 31st is the date where all of these numbers come from. The fourth thing we want to take a look at, you're going to see these numbers are pretty much the same. What is the increase, decrease trend in the fund balance? And so you see that across the bottom because we spend more in the restricted column than we do in unrestricted. And so you see a contribution there, and it's a dollar for dollar, which means, again, what we're seeing in our trend is that we are continuing to spend more than we're taking in. The last thing that's important to take a look at is the ending fund balance. So the ending fund balance really shows where we start and where we end in a given year. And so you see that this year we're expected to have approximately $82 million left in our ending fund balance compared to the following year at 53, compared to the following year at 32. So what you see is we have money left at the end of the year, but it is decreasing pretty quickly. As a matter of fact, from 21-22 to 22-23, you can see a drop there of about $19.5 million. So what does this all mean? Whoops. Just want to give you an example of the information that we released to the public about 3 weeks ago. It had to do with the raises that we've offered based on the current proposal that we have on the table, which certainly could change. If we put in the raises that we have offered over the 3 years, what we see is that at the very bottom called unassigned, at the end of this year, we're expecting to have $29 million unassigned. That means that that is available money to use for other things that we have not already identified. So if we put the raises in for this year and the following 2 years, what we see in that third year in 23-24 is negative $18.8 million. So what this is showing us right here, and this is something that again will be in the board presentation next week for first interim, is that this information here is showing that in order to afford the raise that we have proposed, we are going to need to make some reductions, because if we are negative in that third year, it's going to be very difficult for us to have a positive budget and a positive certification. So hope this is helpful. There will be a little more detailed explanation of all of this at the board meeting on December 8th, and we hope to see you there. If you have any other questions that you think would be helpful that you have or that other groups have, by all means, go ahead and send me an email at cbo@mdusd.org. Thank you.